Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel in the first place. Today we have a Bakugou ex-listener. It's We're Just Childhood Friends by Arade on AO3. The link will be in the description. Go check them out, and let's go ahead and get into it. Don't be so fucking nervous, he warned you. It didn't matter how many times the blonde would reassure you though. Things were still beyond nerve-wracking. You're meeting Katsuki school friends for the first time. This was a huge deal for you, even if he couldn't understand why. These were people who were among those destined to become the most popular pro-heroes of your generation. The blonde has given you a basic rundown of who would be at the ramen shop you had all planned to meet. You made sure to pay close attention to the details he was giving you, so as not to make a fool of yourself in front of his Class 1A peers. Apparently, you'd be spending the afternoon with his closest friends. He refused to admit they were his friends, though. Kirishima, Kaminari, Ashido, and Sero. Of course, the explosive boy had used more colorful nicknames, as he would talk about each of them. You just hoped you wouldn't accidentally slip up and use one of them. You were grateful to know it would only be a smaller group. Most of the people he described you had already heard from many of the stories Katsuki shared with you. You could only imagine if they had to put up with the angry blonde for so long, they'd be pretty accepting of you. It didn't stop your stomach from doing flips as you were quickly approaching the familiar destination, however. When the door to the shop chimed, you could see 4 heads peek up eagerly to see who the source was. Each of their hands shot up in the air in excitement, waving for you to join them at the booth. The man beside you only scoffed and led you to where you would be seated. "It's so nice to finally meet you," Ashido celebrated as she was seated on your left. Katsuki took the spot to your right, leaving you feeling like the center of attention in front of the other 3 boys who were sat across from you. You have no idea how much Bakugou talks about you. For the most part, Katsuki seemed to be ignoring the pink woman's outbursts, but you could tell he was feeling a little embarrassed to be revealed so shamelessly. You smiled softly, surprised that he would even mention you among his classmates. A boy with wild red hair, Kirishima, you realized, was next to speak up. Yeah, I was starting to believe Bakugou was just making you up. I mean, who would have thought he actually had a partner? You nearly choked on the ice water you were drinking. Nobody else, not even Katsuki, seemed fazed by what Kirishima just said. Maybe you had heard the hero in training wrong. Well, that's what you might have figured anyway, if it wasn't for the constant comments about the 2 of you dating, that is. If you would have known it would be a hot topic among the group, you would have corrected Kirishima right off the bat. But now, it would make things much too embarrassing. The time really had flown by. You could see why Katsuki had given them the time of day. They were good people, and especially good for him. Just as the 6 of you were leaving the ramen shop, Ashido pulls you aside for a moment for some talking, as she told the boys. "Hey, just between you and me, Bakugou really loves you. He seems so much more peaceful when you're around." The smile on her face was so genuine, you almost felt a little bad. I guess now would be a better time than any to rip the band-aid. "Oh, yeah, about that," you said, letting out an awkward laugh. "I wanted to say this earlier, but I thought it would make things weird. Katsuki and I aren't dating." You had wanted to avoid seeing her reaction, but when she was quiet for a long moment, you looked over to see if she even heard what you said. She had an incredulous look on her face. "What?" This caused the others to turn their attention to you both, but Ashido just frantically waved them off. "Yeah, we're just childhood friends," you revealed. You wondered if it was honestly so difficult to believe. She only grew more confused. "No way! We've been calling you Bakugou's partner for ages now, and he's never denied it." Eventually, Ashido relaxed from her former state of shock. You made her promise not to say anything to the others, if their reaction would be anything like hers. You weren't so sure you could survive the embarrassment. You were left entirely flushed. It was weird. You were still thinking about the whole misunderstanding. You just couldn't understand why Katsuki didn't even bother to correct them today, or any day apparently, about the relationship you both shared. While the two of you were walking to your houses, you decided you would have to bring this up with Katsuki, otherwise it would leave you up at night. I never told those weird asses we were a thing, was his initial response. He was so nonchalant about it. You were so frustrated you stopped in your tracks. But you let them think we were, Katsuki. The blonde continued walking for a couple steps before turning around to face you. He had a look on his face that seemed to suggest he had an obvious explanation. What does it matter? It's always the same shit anyways. He questioned as if he was disinterested. Katsuki, you nearly shrieked in embarrassment. It is most certainly not the same thing. He shot you a look of disbelief, which only prompted you to interrogate him. So, what would happen if I ended up getting an actual boyfriend? You'd still let them think we're together? You didn't know how or why you came up with such a question, but even still, you thought it was fair to ask. Once again, he scoffed at you. To him, the answer was crystal clear. You wouldn't have to date some stupid extra. You have me, he said, adorning a cocky smile on his face while pointing at himself. That shut you up quite effectively. Of all things he could have said, you did not expect that. You were a little embarrassed, though. He wasn't exactly wrong. It was an obvious answer. Katsuki noticed the blush spread across your cheeks, but before he could make any comment about it, you swiftly made your way to walk ahead of him. You would not let him tease you today. You weren't sure you could take any more comments. With your back turned to face him, you missed the way he had a fond look on his face, one that was reserved exclusively for you. Alright, so that's the end of this one. I hope you enjoyed. Music link, fanfic link, Discord link, and thumbnail art link will all be in the description, so go check those out. I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, whatever, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye!